Hi and welcome to template development pattern number 1 for radial line development. Now in the last section we were doing parallel line, and that could be either square tubes or round tubes, so basically it's straight tubing. Radial line gives us the opportunity to develop cones, conical sections. Okay, it can be straight cones, it can be oblique cones, but basically it's a tapering round that goes up. So the first thing we're going to do is draw the outside profile. So I'm just going to click on the polyline, bring it down on screen, and click my start point. Now, like with any other type of drawing, if you're going to draw by coordinates, in some cases it's actually easier to draw by coordinates because not everything, like some of these drawings, are actually done nicely in half-inch increments so that they snap to the points on screen. It could be 2 3/8 across, and then where would you be? So I can move that thing down out of the way and you'll see it draw. What you do to get 2.5 inches across just on the x-axis, and if you look down the lower left hand corner of the screen you'll see the x and the y there, is we point it in the general direction and we type shift 2 to give us the at sign, and then 2.5 comma 0, enter. That means we want to go 2.5 inches along in the x, but not up and down, so 0 on the up and down. The next one, we're going to need to go back an inch, okay, because it's a 2.5 inch base. As a half-inch hole, that leaves an inch either side that we've got to move it either in or out. So we're going to go back an inch, and that's a minus value. So at -1, comma 2.5, because that's the height of the cone. Now we're just going to go back a half an inch. Now I could easily just click it there, but I'll give you the command, which is at -0.5 comma 0, because we just want to go in straight across. We don't want it to go up or down. And then C, then enter for close. Well, that gives us our profile. Now we've got two other things to do. One, the first thing we need to do is to explode this shape, because as you can see it's completely joined. And the reason for that is we can now fillet radius these two. And yes, I meant fillet radius. That's the one that puts the rounded edges on. Well, kind of. It doesn't always put rounded edges on. Do you remember, if I go over here and pick the fillet radius, look what comes up at the bottom of the screen. It says radius equals 0. If you put a fillet radius on something with a 0 rad, what do you get? Let's left click, left and right lines, and you'll see what we get. You get the apex point. Now that's the top of our pattern, but now we can see where everything's going to radiate from, given the angle of these sides. Last but not least, on the construction, we have to put the round surface on. So the bottom of the cone and the top of the cone is round. It's a conical section. So we just grab a circle command, grab the midpoint, come down on the bottom, and basically just extrude it out to the side of the cone. Next thing to do is to trim. So let's go to the trim command, which is halfway up the modify menu. We can left click the cutting edge, which is the base of the cone, right click, and then left click the top part of the circle, just leaving us with the bottom section. Then hit escape to get the dotted line to disappear. Next thing we did in class was divide the bottom section up. So type in the word divide, D-I-V-I-D-E, and enter. And it says select an object. Well, that's the half circle on the bottom. And enter. And now what we're going to do is just split it up into an even number of even number of sections, which would normally be 12 on most circles, so it will be 6 in this case. Okay, so I need a number. I just enter 6, enter. Now that is split up. I know it doesn't look like it's changed, but you'll see that there's something on that arc when I go up and get another polyline. What I want to do is to go down to one of these bottom options here, that little dot on the object snap, and that's snap to node. If I go, just turn my F9 key off for a second so that it smoothly rolls. I'm going to zoom into this corner. I can come down here and you'll notice now there is a node point. It's a circle with a cross in it. So I can click on that and bring that up to my baseline. Very important. Bring it up to the baseline. Then go to a polyline again and an object snap. Come down this edge, and sure enough there's another one. Bring that one up to the baseline. There's going to be one more. So polyline, node, and one at the center, which will go up to the base point there. And I'll say there's going to be one more. I know there's another two to go over this side. But once you've drawn these two, there's no point in drawing them again. You could just come up and find another node point, but we're going to use the mirror command. So mirror, select the objects. So it's going to be these two lines on the right. Do a right click, then it says select the mirror line. That can be the end of this line to the end of that line down here. It says, do you want to delete them? The option is no, so I just hit enter and the other two lines come up. Once we've got our lines coming up to the base point, what we do is just grab a polyline, go to the end of that line and up to the imaginary apex. When you're up there with a line, you might as well bring it back down and place it on the next one, but then we've got to enter, otherwise we're going to put line over the top of this base. So once again, polyline, apex to base. Now just like down here where we mirrored those across, we can mirror these two across quite easily. So I'm going to go back to the mirror command, click it, select the objects I want to mirror, right click, and then left click on the first mirror point, left click on the second mirror point and hit enter to make them appear. Now if we had a frustum coming down at an angle, at this point we'd have to develop every single cross, like where the frustum hit one of these lines, every single cross point or intersection point, we'd have to bring those right the way over on the horizontal to the side of the cone. That's not the case here because everything is flat. Top is flat, bottom is flat. So we're just going to use these 2 points here for putting two circles on. So I'm going to grab a circle, go to the apex and put my first circle with the radius on that edge. Then I'll grab a cone again, find the apex. You can just do it by touching the outside of the circle you just put on and placing the other one down there at the base. Okay, now I need a start line. So this time I'm going to get a polyline, come to the very apex, and I'm going to pick a point somewhere around here. I don't even have to be on the line. I can go past it if I want to. I'll just show you. Just like that. But it gives me the starting edge. Okay, that's where my pattern's going to start. Now what we've got to do is we've got 12 of these spaces around the cone. That's the first half. Then we've got another 6 on the back. So like before, we grab a circle, we place it on the end of one of the lines, and then we stretch it out so it touches the next one, so we can use the radius to measure. So I'm just going to copy that circle now from its center point and place it on the intersection of those two lines there. I'm going to zoom in and place it on that intersection, that intersection, that intersection, etc. Okay, so I'm just going to put 12 of these ones on there. Not sure how many I'll put on, but I think I've got about another 3 to go. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I have got another 3 to go. 10, 11, and last but not least 12. Okay, now there's one thing I want to point out. If you look very, very closely, you've got to be careful when you draw your line from there to the apex, because there are two cross points. Because this is not a straight line, the circles won't just kiss and touch in the middle. They kind of overlap on the inside surface. The outside surface is fine, but the inside surface, if you're not careful and you don't zoom in properly, you could connect it here instead of down there. Okay, so it's just a case of drawing lines now from the top to that point there. Okay, so again from the top again to that point there, and so on. These ones will go all the way around in between each of these. If you want a quicker way of finding the polyline, right click, just repeat polyline, then you can go from there to the top and then maybe back down to there. Okay, so right click, repeat polyline from there to the top, then back down to there. Yep, it's that easy. It's long and laborious when you're putting these lines on, especially when you'll see what the pattern looks like, because I could have just put the last line on and be done with it. But it's good practice to actually put these lines on because you're going to need them. There we go, last one. You're going to need them on other developments, and it's a good practice to know how to do it. Okay, so that's the start point. Here's our cone. So the actual conical development, if I'm just going in red, would be a polyline from that start point to the top. It then goes from point to point right the way around here. There's no difference because the line on the top is flat. There's no difference on the base because the line on the base is flat. So it's just a case of going around these sections and then going point to point around the base. Now it's not just all about practice, as in doing each one of these lines when I could have just done the outside one. There is another reason for it. There's our conical section developing on the cone. But if we had a feature of some kind, like a pipe coming in from the side, it would have to be placed a set number of these around the object to get it in the right position. So you'd have to actually have these lines on to find out, where, for example, where the center of it was, like there. But that's it for the lesson, and I'll see you in the next one.